Greetings, stranger. Today we're talking about common writing issues. That would be more talkative video than usual, because usually we have lectures, so that's experimental format. I hope it works. If not, well, it is how it is. So, greetings, stranger. My name is Katie. I'm a writer, narrative game designer. So here we talk about fantasy, book creation, game creation. So if you like anything of it, you're welcome here. And let's start. Well, I wrote down some points that I would like to talk today. Not sure if it is gonna be a long video or a short one. Hopefully it will be a long one, so we can continue with these sort of videos. But let's see. Common writing issues. That is one of the most popular topic among writing community, among game writers, whatever, like, because everybody is interested, like, what are those mistakes? How can I avoid it? How can I prevent making those mistakes? But, well, the truth is simple. Actually, all these sort of mistakes, every writer at least once had. I mean, I swear, like, when I started my journey as a writer and a game designer, narrative designer, whatever, I had all of these mistakes. Practically, I sometimes can find that the tracks of those mistakes that I used to do, because, mistake is something that actually happens to everybody. First point I'd like to talk today is exposition, like showing too much exposition and not showing, like, how we gonna do with this. The thing is that actually, writing a book is a complex thing. It consists of various building blocks. It consists of expositions, characters arc, dialogues, conflict, all of this. And our task as writers to know how to balance it all. The thing is that it's a bit complicated. Like, when you are in the process, you are in one particular scene. Sometimes it is like you're very zoomed in, okay? So it is hard to actually see if you're doing right or wrong, if, like, you put too much description or not enough description, so the reader will not understand what is going on, like where things are happening and stuff. In this case, of course, the most important is to zoom out. But, well, first things first. I would say that our task as writers is to guide your reader through the story. Like, let's look at this as an example. You're walking on the road, you're walking somewhere in the street, and you meet a stranger. The stranger is asking you how to get to the library, and you know the way. So, how will you describe it to a complete stranger who is not familiar with this part of the city? And that is the trick, actually. Because imagine, like, somebody is asking you the road and you're like, okay, so you see, you need to go straight. You see that very tall building? There is a woman living there. She has 3 cats. She's very lovely every Sunday. She bakes delicious pancakes, whatever. So this is the building. There is also a bush of roses nearby, very beautiful. You should see them to maybe take photos and stuff. So whatever, near this building, you need to turn right. You go maybe like 250 meters or maybe 253 meters. You're gonna see the line of beautiful houses there. In one of those buildings, there lives my friend, whatever. I mean, you got the point. Like, nobody explains the road like this. I mean, that is that is horrible way to describe it in the way. So at the same time, you do not, like, when they ask you about the road, you do not say something like, okay, go straight, then right, then left. Huh? Where is right? Where is left? A bit more details, and that is particularly how it sometimes looks in the books, like sometimes writers give a lot of unnecessary description that actually they, like, it doesn't have any purpose, just for the exposition, And but sometimes it is like there are no details at all, and it is hard for the reader. I mean, like I'm on the second camp of the writers. I have this problem that sometimes I do not write too much. I am too short in my writing. That is the problem that I'm dealing with. Actually, I'm trying to make myself put more description because I could see that sometimes my readers could get lost in stuff. Whatever. So it's very important, time and place. And if we talk about the exposition, for example, in the very beginning of the story, this is the most common mistake, I would say, among writers. What I mean is that in the very beginning of your book, like it should be very catchy, because we live in this epoch when you need to catch the attention from the very beginning. Because if not, nobody will read this. And no matter if there's a simple reader or like an agent who is going to read your book, like from the very first page, something should happen. I don't mean like some epic stuff or like a fight. You don't need actually always to throw your reader in the very center of the events, but something should happen, some action, because nobody wants, these 5 pages of description of a field or forest in the very beginning of the book. They want to know the character. They want to know what is going on here in this world. What is it all about? And in this sense, another typical mistake is to start the book with a character waking up. Oh my, I mean, like, how often do you wake up like this? Like, you open your eyes and you look around your room and you see that the ceiling is white. And, like these walls, they have like this popcorn texture, like every building in this country probably. And you stand up and you look out of the window and you see the tree, and on this tree there is a pigeon who is also looking at you and singing a song, whatever. Like, I mean, like, how often in your real life do you do this? Like, do you do this every day? I mean, like, if you wake up in your own house, your own room, in the very bed that you've been waking up for the last 10 years, and there is this very tree that it's been there for your whole life, you do not pay attention to these things unless something unusual has happened. The character wakes up and sees that, wow, the sky is red. What? Why? And instead of the pigeon, there is a rat. Like, what the rat is doing on the tree. I mean, you see the point. Like, usually we do not focus on the things that we see in our daily life, neither our characters. So it's very important to understand, like, for what serves your exposition. Exposition you usually use for specific stuff, for specific details, or just like to briefly describe where the action happens. And that is the most important that you should keep in mind. It should be not too much. At the same time, it should be just enough for the reader to draw a picture in their head. And again, you don't need to go into too much of details. I prefer to leave some space for the reader to fantasize. The same, by the way, with the character description. I don't usually over-describe my characters, like this girl has dark curly hair, dark eyes, pale skin, whatever. I mean, like, maybe some specific details that are important for the reader, that I want the reader to catch in their vision, and the rest is like, I don't actually care how they imagine my characters. Show, don't tell. Well, that is a sort of advice. This is like the concept that I personally think that is slightly misunderstood. The same as with write every day 1,000 words. Like, I mean, that is a concept that is very useful. Don't get me wrong, it's very useful, but you need to know how to use it. And spoiler, you don't need to use it every time you write or describe something. No, you need to know where to use it. And that's the thing, because like showing slows the pace of your story. And that's the thing. So if you have this action scene, or very intense one, you don't need actually to show or overshow it, to show too much exposition, to over describe it. And that's the previous point that we discussed. Show don't tell is very useful for outstanding details, not I don't mean in the sense like a simple description of the room, like that is exposition, but like it is good to show emotions, not just to say like and he was angry. No. Or worse, the character says like, I am angry. No. I mean, in this sense, it's better to show the signs of the anger, for example. It can be some either physical reaction or emotional one. But again, in show don't tell, it's not like necessarily every emotion of the character you need to show. No, I would say no. Sometimes it is just enough to write like, he replied briefly or shortly or whatever. Like if this emotion is not like that very important for the scene, it is just like a normal reaction in the dialogue, I would say like you can tell sometimes, Maybe it's a bad advice, by the way. Correct me if I'm wrong. Number 3 is flirting with your reader. I mean, that's how I call it. That is the point that I discovered in many, not in many, that is the point that I sometimes see in the books. And moreover, that is something that sometimes I even do in my books. I do not do this intentionally, but like, how do I describe this? This is like, we want our stories to be liked, right? We want our stories to be relatable, so the reader will be like, wow, this is like, I feel like this character. So we are trying to make our characters too likable, too relatable, and like we put this likability to all the characters, and that is something that can actually ruin the scene in the book, because like too many relatable characters can destroy your book. If every character is relatable, it makes the story flat, and I would even say like sterile. And sterility kills art, it kills drama, it kills this very conflict, and conflict is the essence of the dialogue. And I mean, we as writers, we do not do this on purpose, of course, because like sometimes we love our character too much, or a couple of characters, and we try to make them nice and relatable. So we are putting something in their behavior that you think like, yeah, the reader will love this. Or sometimes it's even the description or the scene with, like, I for example, had this stuff that I've been writing, for example, a scene, and I was like, yeah, my readers will love this scene. I mean, that is it's such a cool scene. I mean, I love it. It's so relatable. But then I show it to my beta readers, and they're like, well, I mean, there is nothing special about it. But another scene that I thought that, for example, was very bad one, badly written and stuff, they like, but this scene I really like. I mean, I was like shocked, and I was like, how does it work? How, I mean, like, and that is the thing, like, do not try to flirt with your reader. Do not try to make your book likable. Do not write your book thinking that this or that think that your readers will like. Like, do not try to fit into the interest of the public, because actually when you do this, it becomes very boring, flat, and readers actually, they do not want it. I mean, that is the thing, sometimes your readers can say like, I need more love story, or I wanted to see more description of something, or I wanted like, I don't know, whatever. And that is the thing, you don't always need to listen to your reader, because everybody will have their own opinion. Like this was fine, but I wanted to see this thing. Another reader will tell you like, no, this thing is right, but I wanted to see, I don't know, dragons. And your reader number 3 will say like, no, I don't, like, dragons will be too much for this book, but the orcs are just fine. And like, if you will try to feed to all these requests and, I don't know, rewrite your book or change the idea or whatever, you will ruin your own vision. Because keep in mind that your vision is what important. Your task as a writer is to filtrate this feedback. I mean, if all readers are saying like they don't like this very particular scene, probably this scene is not working as it should work. But it is up to you to see how to change it. Don't try to implement everything your readers tell you, like correct this, add this, add that, remove this. I mean, if you just try to follow all this advice, you will completely ruin the scene, believe me. That's how it works. So don't listen what they say, listen how they say it. And keep this in mind, because you are your own filter. Another stuff, clumsy dialogues. Dialogues is one of the hardest things to write in a book, because, as I said before, the essence of the dialogue, each dialogue is a conflict. It's not, it doesn't always mean that it should be like this open conflict when one character says, I hate you, another replies, I hate you too, and all this stuff. No, I mean, but it is something like, character A has interest in something, character B has interest in maybe the same thing, but for another purpose. The thing is that dialogues are really hard to write, honestly, because it requires very good understanding of pacing. It requires you to understand your characters. You need to understand how your characters speak, because if not, like, all your characters will sound the same and it will be flat and the dialogue will be flat, and you need to understand like what is the purpose of this dialogue, because you should not write the dialogue just for the sake of it. Dialogue always serves for something, revealing some information or discovering something, or showing how the character really feels, or showing the tension. Like, there are thousands of things why do we actually need dialogues, but it should not be just like because, the dialogues should not be very simple and boring. Because I remember recently, a year ago, I was reading one very popular book. The name of it I will not say, but oh my gosh, I mean, the dialogues were absolutely horrible there. And I mean, imagine this situation. Like, there are two characters, night, some building. Character A is in the room, and character B arrives to the room. So, character B saying like, somebody is in the building. Character A say, who? I don't know. Short description of how they do not know who is in the building, and then enters the group of their friends and they say somebody is in the building. I mean, literally, it's like somebody's in the building. Who? We don't know. Yay! it's all the same page. And I mean, like, all those dialogues, they were absolutely the same. They were very repetitive. And in the beginning, it was very funny. In the end, I was like, okay, I cannot. Maybe it's not my book. So I had to leave it. Anyways, so now what is important is that dialogue should always have purpose. It should not be repetitive. So, I mean, like, you do not need to repeat the same information that was mentioned 2 pages before. I really like the phrase, real diamonds do not shine on the stage, fakes one do. So it's important to remember that when trying to imitate real life dialogue, you should not actually create a real life dialogue, because if you go outdoors and you listen how people speak and you will try to write it down, I guarantee it will be absolutely horrible, because when we speak, we use a lot of filler words. I mean, even now I'm speaking, I'm not having a lecture, I'm not reading from the screen, and you can hear a lot of I'm thinking, I'm making different sounds, I'm putting some fill-in words. That is something that you should not write in your book. But there is an exception. You can put some fill-in words or this, like sounds to a particular character if it is his man of speech, but it should not be in every character's speech. And that is important, because if always your character, one particular character starts with his or her phrases with or something, it can also describe their character. Is it slow? Is it just like because thinking, or the character is insecure? Keep that in mind. The last point is start working on something too big when you do not have enough experience. That is, I think, it's my theory, okay? That is one of the reasons why a lot of people in the very beginning, at least, do not finish their books, because like they have this brilliant idea that they love, that they probably had since their childhood or teenagehood or whatever, and like they wanted to write a book on it, and that's great. That is okay, and that is fine, that's your own right, but they start writing the book without having enough experience, without fully understanding the basics, the theory, like how books work. And of course they drop it, because imagine you go to the gym, like and on your very first day in the gym you try to lift like 50 pounds, 50 kilos, whatever. Like, will it be really useful for you? No, probably you'll harm yourself. So my recommendation, if you just start writing, or you are on your way but still do not have too much experience, try with a short form. It could be a short story. Write something small. The small form is great because it actually helps you to shape your skill. It helps you to have some experience on writing. And when you will feel more confident, try to write your book. And again, the most important point, writing is about consistency. You need a lot of patience, a lot of time, a lot of dedications, but most of all, consistency. Because without consistency, you will never be able to finish your book or your story. You will not be able to fully develop your idea, and that's hard. Believe me, like, for example, I have like, how many books I have written? Something like 5 maybe. And I consider that with these 5 books, I actually wrote 3 only. 1 is published, 1 is not. And the third one, well, I finished writing it. And the last book, like this very book that I'm writing right now, it took me like 2 years, and I hopefully I will finish this month. But I do not guarantee anything, because, sometimes you think that you are close to an end, but then something else comes and you just have to write it a bit more. Now I'd like to jump to some recommendations. Again, I'm not a professional writer, so who am I to give recommendations here? But I would say that these are recommendations based on my own experience, on the experience of my writers' friends. Also, just some general advice that I saw in the internet. Yeah, that's it. First one is like, you should read a lot. And everything. When you start working on a genre, like for example, you want to write your fantasy book. Okay, great. So first of all, you need to understand like, okay, who are the most popular authors nowadays, or in classical fantasy? Like, you need to understand how your genre works, okay? Because it will help you to know the rules, like if you want to play this game, you need to know the rules. Read all you can read in these must read books. Also jump to your colleagues. Read and learn. It will give you more understanding on what is going on, how people write, how do they write it, what is popular, what is not, because if your book is going to be published, you need to know what is trendy, what is not, how you will sell it to your readers. Of course, your task as a writer is to write, but in our realities, you need to know how all this social aspect works. Well, but actually read everything you can. Fiction, non-fiction, fantasy, prose, poetry, whatever. Why? Because that is how you can enrich your own language. Basically, you will see how different elements work in different genres, and you never know what can be useful for your book. Even if you write romantasy, for example, that's great. You do not actually need horror, for example, elements. But there is a particularly scene that you want to be you want your reader to shiver, be like, wow, that is so scary, And if you read only your genre, you will probably not be very familiar how to properly make the scene work. What are the triggers that actually make your readers to be afraid, to be scared and stuff. The second point is you should analyze what you read. That is a trick, because actually when you start analyzing what you read, you will never, ever, ever be able to return to this simple enjoying your book. Because every time, for example, I read, I'm even if I really enjoy a book, I always okay, so this scene is about blah, 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 and the author used this or that stuff. I mean, that's very useful, because analyzing is one of the steps, how you will later be able to copy this technique and to train it and to develop and to implement in your own writing. So that's very useful. It's a bit hard, especially in the very beginning, when you just trying to learn how to analyze it, because you constantly want to switch to these simple reading and do not actually think how things work. But you need to train yourself, and it will be one of the most useful things you can do. But again, it will ruin your experience as a reader, because you will be constantly analyzing something. But well, that's how it is if you want to write books. And the last, you need to practice a lot. You need to be consistent. I do not say that you need to write every day. No, I mean, because that is too perfect. We all have our own circumstances. It's not always possible to write every day, honestly. It's very hard. And I don't actually know if you really need to do this every day if you are not a professional writer. Because, I mean, again, I think that for a professional writer, I mean, it's like your job. So it's you have to go to your job every day, right? So you have to write every day. That's how it works. That's business. So, but if it is your hobby, or you are just starting, it's not necessarily to write every single day. It can be useful, I do not deny. But, I had a lot of cases of my friend writers when they were having those challenges, like of writing every day 1,000 words and for a month. And in the end of this month, they were like, okay, I need a break. And then they took a break for like 2 months or 3 months. Like, is it really useful? Or like, maybe you can just write, okay, 2-3 days a week on on weekends, like, doesn't actually matter, but you need to be constant. Consistency is the key to the book creation, and that is something that I am 100% sure. Well, as a person who has 3 books written almost. So, I mean, I know what I'm talking about, okay? I don't know if actually here, like, I should recommend you books to read. I probably can. So if you're interested, I can show you some of the books that I find particularly interesting. I'm not sure if I'm gonna include this part on the video. But anyway, let's see. I'm not sure how I'm gonna show you this because I have a microphone in my hand, but these are the books that I have in my library. It's not everything on writing, actually, because I have also quite a bit of books in electronic format, but these are books that I have in my library. Some of them are for the basic level. Some of them are more advanced, in my humble opinion, but let's see what I have here. The first one is Memo. I mean, this is from Christopher Vogler and David McKenna. So it's very useful. As you can see, I have a lot of stickers here. That is basically like about like how to create the story. I mean, it has a lot of different stuff. Like, I can show you a table of content. It's like, a compilation of very different aspects of book creation. I'm sorry, I just want to show you this beautiful illustration. So it's very nice, especially when you just start writing. It is just like, it's well structured, it's easy to read, it's not like overwhelmed with theory. So these for beginners, I think it's a really very nice book. Other 2 books that are like, I would say like beginners level, or like, let's not call it beginners, but maybe like the basic one, I like it more, is How to Write Dialogue, written by James Scott Bell, and Writing Unforgettable Characters, also by James Scott Bell. So here, again, it's also like, it's very well structured, and it is like a really compilation of different things that you should have in mind when creating characters or dialogue. What I like about these books, that they're very small. I literally finished them in my flight from Madrid to Peru. So it was like very easy, entertaining to read. What I really liked about these books is like the structure, like the chapters are very small, which is nice. And it consists of like theory, some examples, and then there is a part which is called Poyo Novel, where you can basically like implement, like practice the knowledge that you received from this or that chapter. I didn't use that much of these exercises, honestly, but I really appreciated a lot the examples, because sometimes like the pure theory is hard to understand, right? And for me, it's very important to see example, like, okay, like these are words, like theory, nice, but I don't understand how it works in a real example. I need to see it. And here, like every time we have this kind of example. Okay, what is next? Next is like intermediate level. I'm sorry, they're gonna be in Russian because it's my mother tongue. So this is Robert McKee. It's more about like script writing, I would say, more like applicable for the cinema, the same as like, what's the name? Saving the Cat? I don't remember. It's quite a big book. Also, it covers all the basic aspects of script writing, how to create nice characters, dialects, and all this stuff. Very nice, very informative, but it is more like more dry in the content. I mean, it's more theoretical, you know. So sometimes, at least I was reading this like in the very beginning of my writing journey. So it was a bit hard for me because like a lot of different aspects that you are still not very familiar with. Maybe now I would not say that it's too hard, but still very nice. I mean, this is like the basics that you should also read if you want to write seriously. Another book is Thesaurus of Emotions by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. I mean, this book is useful in the sense of like, this is something that you're gonna have on your table while writing the book, because it is something that can help you to help you with the description of different emotions. It's not for reading that much, because it's basically like the list of different emotions and how then they can be described. I mean, in physical aspect or psychological aspect. I mean, very useful. I sometimes use it, honestly, when I am not sure like how to describe this or that emotion, especially in the context of my hero's character, you know. And here it gives you like a ready-made stuff, so you can just like see and think like, oh, okay, so that's how it can be expressed. It's very nice though. And the last is the Wonderbook by Jeff Vandermeer. It's beautiful. I love it. Really beautiful. I will show you like this. It's a bit heavy. So yeah, like this, for example. There are a lot of famous contributors like George Martin, Neil Gaiman, Ursula Le Guin. So, I mean, this book I would call like advanced level, because like it has like, it covers also the basic things, like the basic theory, but it like expands on this or that point, you know. When like, if you're a beginner, you just like starting your journey, like look how beautiful it is, it may be a bit too much for you, like, because there's so much information that your heart can just collapse. Okay, and that's it for today. Thank you for being with me all this time in this bizarre video. I'm not sure if I'm gonna repeat this experience, because it was more like experimental thing. But well, let me know in your comments. Was it useful? Was it not? Do you prefer like more lecture style, or you like this kind of sort of the dialogue that we have between each other? Thank you again. And subscribe, put like, comment. Any interaction is actually very appreciated. And well, see you next time. Bye bye.